This seems like a very random video considering my content, but the sheer amount of people who genuinely don't get what chubby or fat actually is, and that it doesn't always have an obvious look to it, is really annoying, and I felt I need to make this video even if it doesn't get the reach just to talk about this. Many people who argue about what body type or weight counts as fat or chubby almost never do actual research on the topic, or what those words truly mean. They just go with the definition as absolutely twisted into something it's not by society due to fat phobia that was always tied specifically to people's looks. Hi, by the way. Forgot to do that. But anyway. Even people who claim it's about health and not looks still only single out the visibly fat people because they judge them based on their looks. Considering that you can in fact be skinny and fat at the same time, they are not mutually exclusive and there's more than one way to be classified as a fat person. Now, what am I actually referring to? And what made me make this video in the first place? Well, I found a video on Shorts about someone saying how they basically prefer chubby men to muscular men, ignoring whether I think it's okay to talk about men or women in the fashion of I like this guy specifically for his looks, because it's not relevant to the topic. Many guys got pretty annoyed and started commenting how the chubby men in question weren't even chubby, saying that women, because it wouldn't be a comment section without men or women bringing up gender for no reason, don't know what chubby truly means or what it looks like, ignoring how they don't either. And it's very obvious from how stupid some of these comments are. Now, by stupid, I'm not exactly calling the people writing this stupid. They just lack intellect because they don't bother researching anything or fact-checking the words they're using, which is subjective, whether it's stupid or not to do so. To me it is, but the men in question were mostly men like this. These are mostly muscular chubby men, some of them also most likely do bulking as much, as it's not actually specified in the video. And many people started arguing how they're not chubby because they're muscular and saying they're not chubby just because they aren't lean, which, I mean, I'm gonna go through most of these points one by one, at least the ones I saw the most and have saved from these comments to show how so many people don't even know what these words mean, or that being chubby or fat isn't always visible, and it isn't tied to looks specifically as much as people think they are due to how society has been mishandling these words and using them in derogatory manners. Starting now. The most common argument that I've seen in the comment section is that these men are just, as if not more muscular than the ones they showed as muscular in the video. This is already a stupid argument because not even chubby but literally fat people can have muscles and even almost a six-pack on their big bellies, as seen in the pictures. There is not even much more I need to say because the argument just resolves itself. How muscular you are doesn't determine the fat stored in your body. While it can contribute to your weight mass, it doesn't matter what makes you overweight. If you're overweight for any reason, by definition, you are chubby. And don't worry, I will get into the definitions of these words at some point. The second and very common argument is that these men are just bulking, or just bulky. Which being bulky and chubby aren't mutually exclusive, you can be both. And if you're overweight, plump, or round, then you're by definition chubby as much as literally anything else. This is even weirder considering it's incredibly common and known that bulking causes people to be chubby and overweight for many reasons anyway, dude. One is a person either eating more than they were meant to, causing the fat to go over the limit, making the rest of the fat stored, not in the muscles, but in your adipose tissue, which is the fat storage. It's also psychologically recorded that many people who do bulking overestimate their muscles to a fat ratio, becoming overweight. There is also the issue with something known as the P ratio, or partitioning ratio, which is a scientific metric that determines how much of your gained weight goes to lean mass instead of fat. The more muscles you gain, the heavier you become, actually cause the more of your fat to go into your storage instead of your muscle mass, also causing weight gain. Bulking is commonly known to make people chubby, so you see that as an argument as to why they're not chubby, even if bulking itself isn't what's causing it, isn't a good argument, because many things during bulking can cause weight gain, whether it's scientific or your own fault, for the reasons mentioned above. Then we have comments of people just contradicting themselves while arguing about it. This one guy literally agreed to these people being chubby, but then started making excuses as to why they actually aren't, saying, but they don't look like typical chubby puppy. It's a very weird statement and makes you wonder what else they have this mindset towards. Because you can say I'm strawmanning here, but saying someone can't exactly be called fat or chubby just because they don't look like other fat or chubby people is really icky if you have this mindset on other things as well. Would you also say someone can't exactly be called disabled because they aren't disabled in the same way or don't look like the other people with the same disability? Because it is the same mindset. And I really think if you have a mindset like this for one thing, it's kind of weird not to have it for other things as well. Of course, double standards, but they make no sense. That's why people call them out. Fat and chubby don't always have a look. Funny enough, you don't actually have to look fat or have a Peter Griffin style belly to be fat. You can be both and fat and skinny at the same time, actually. You can also have a big belly and not be fat due to other reasons like bad posture, bloating, etc. Fat, by definition, means just having excessive fat anywhere in your body, while skinny just means you're slim. That's it. They can exist at the same time and aren't mutually exclusive at all. Society has used fat and skinny as opposites for so long, nobody even bothers to check if it's accurate anymore. They were never opposites until people started body shaming others for the way they look. Someone also said something similar about this and it made me laugh, considering, yes, you can. A skinny person can still be fat because fat isn't about looks specifically. Fat by definition literally just means having excessive fat anywhere in your body, and it can be around your organs or under your skin. Looks don't always determine if you're fat or even overweight, and even if they did, saying someone isn't a specific label just because they aren't the same as other people in said label is weird as hell. Someone not representing the norm isn't an excuse and doesn't make sense if you think about it logically and in other situations. It's just a cope argument, honestly. There was one more comment who said something similar, saying that you all don't know how real chubby people look. Again, I already said not all chubby people look the same, but saying a real chubby people like there is really only one way to be actually chubby is just not true, and doesn't have any proof behind it aside of society forcing the label to be something it's not. I've honestly only saw one person address any of this, and big props to this guy. And props to the profile picture, SCP-999, my beloved. Also, I got to bring this up. I saw so many comments from men bring up the fact that a woman made the video and saying women just don't understand, or that just because one made a short about her preferences, it called some men chubby. Obviously, as a non-binary feminist, it pisses me off, but I still don't get bringing gender into this specifically when you're talking about someone calling someone chubby and saying they don't get it because of their gender, even though it has nothing to do with it. And that she's the one who's right, by the way. Though, to be honest, this guy screams incel vibes to me from some of his replies, especially this one, dude. And the fact that he thought this reply was a bang at the time, basically shaming a guy who simply said bulk and chubby are the same thing. He doesn't know, assuming he has to be skinny or a twig just because of that. Which is kind of funny, but isn't this very similar to what you were doing? Like, very ironic. I have more of these contradicting comments, by the way. This one is really something, and it's not the only one I've seen of this type. Saying he isn't chubby, then literally saying he has more fat mass is really funny. I do get what they mean. Obviously, just because you have fat, which we all do, doesn't mean you're chubby. However, if it makes you seem more plump or round, then it really fucking does. Now, I also got screenshots of a few comments that are really weird to me and make no sense when you think about them for more than 2 seconds, so let's go over them now. One, which I saw more than one of these comments, by the way, is someone saying that this reminds them of people who call someone a nerd just for their looks. The difference is that nerd is an actual personality type, and why people have used it incorrectly to describe looks only like with the word fat. It's not comparable to someone calling someone chubby because they're a little overweight to someone calling someone a specific personality based on looks, lol. Chubby compared to fat is a tiny bit more specific to looks, but still not based on looks as much as people claim. I'd say it's more comparable to people calling chubby people fat to me, but I digress there. Now, this is the last comment before we go to a reply to mine comment, and this is one of kind of gross one, not gonna lie. This person literally said it's fat phobic to call someone chubby if they're healthy and fit. Many people assume being fat or chubby is unhealthy, which isn't always true. While fats can be unhealthy, especially if it's going over your organs, Being chubby is almost never unhealthy because it's just being slightly overweight, not a lot like fat. Chubby is the in-between of fat and skinny, I'd say, and rarely causes any issues because most fat and chubby people isn't as much around the organs as with people who might be fat. Saying it's fatphobic to call someone healthy chubby or fat is honestly more fatphobic than nah, because it assumes all fat and chubby people are unhealthy, and views calling people fat or chubby as a negative way only used to call people unhealthy. Like, friendly fire will not be tolerated here, bro. I found many comments similar to this, and while I couldn't find them to take a screenshot, it's kind of funny, but more so sad to see so many people care about body dysphoria or health, but at the same time, without realizing it, body shaming fat or chubby people. And I doubt they would get this defensive if someone called someone skinny if they weren't actually skinny. I never saw anyone get defenses like this when someone overweight was called skinny, but the other way around, it's certainly a huge issue. And this double standards is really pathetic. Now time to move on to the replies to me. Now I got 2 replies I was able to grab a screenshot of, and I really want to talk about them because people will go to any lengths to win even if facts prove them wrong. This first one was already confusing at the start, saying that you do understand the word chubby, that this channel used implied chubby men. There already is a very weird structured sentence that chubby has literally only one definition, so what kind of other chubby word was I thinking of, apparently? And it was the one I was talking about as well. I don't know where they got the idea that I'm thinking of a different word, but what can I say? 2. And they showed chubby men. I can't prove that they're 100% chubby, as I don't know if they're actually overweight or just have a belly, but seeing how humans are structured and that most of them were bodybuilders, and probably bulking, I can assume they're most likely a little overweight and not just from fat itself but also muscles, etc. Not bulky muscular men. I already said how this doesn't disprove them being chubby, as these 3 things are not mutually exclusive and can exist all together. This is a cope. Also, this is the comment I made that they said I was aggressive in, and I don't know if it's satire because the emojis and what they said next seems like some sort of failed attempt at being funny, but I'll be transparent and just show this reply to show that this was apparently aggressive for those people. Lol. Now the last reply I'll be talking about was this one. So I'll go over this one as well before ending the video with some more proof of what chubby and fat or truly mean, etc. They are literally built like pro wrestlers. Doesn't disprove the fact that they're chubby. This is a nothing argument and pretty much a straw man, as it has nothing to do with my initial point. He is overweight because of... Okay, let me stop you right there. If you're talking about chubby specifically, then the word literally has overweight in its definition. Just because he's more overweight due to muscle mass doesn't mean he's not chubby. That actually proves he is more than it doesn't, so thanks, I guess. And has a normal body fat percentage. You do not know that. This is an assumption. Yes, I don't know if he does or doesn't. Either way. However, it's literally not just fat that determines if you're chubby. It determines if you're fat. But chubby doesn't need to be fat. It can be literally about just being a little plumper around, as well as being overweight. And overweight isn't actually strictly about being fat. That's considered being over fat instead, actually. Overweight is not always about being over fat or fat in general. Not everyone who's overweight is chubby. Some men just have shit tons of muscles and thus have a higher BML. I am gonna hold your hand through this. In the definition of chubby, it states being overweight compared to fat. That implies excessive fat. Chubby implies just extra weight in general. Being overweight is literally when your body mass is higher than average. You can't be this dense and obtuse, dude. I refuse to believe it. Saying they aren't chubby just because they're overweight from muscle mass? Not fat? If you know the definition of chubby is already dumb enough, but using BML and literally saying it's higher while saying that bullshit from before is even worse. Don't use BML as an argument when you clearly don't know what overweight means or how doctors find if you're overweight. It's even funnier considering being overweight is actually not specific. Over fat is the actual medical term for people who are fat, not overweight. Specifically well, you know what I mean. Overweight is just being over your average weight relative to your height, which can be caused by literally anything, including muscle mass. Anyway, these are all the screenshots and comments I found on that video that I wanted to really bring up because they're stupid and I wanted to debunk all of them and show why I'm right here. But So now it's time for the conclusion. Well, I will say like 4 things to educate people on what these words actually mean, and then closing off the video. So let's just get into the last points of the video that I need to bring up at this point. 1. Fat just means having excessive fat, weight, or a lot of flesh on the body. Anywhere, and it's not always visible, known as skinny fat or normal weight obesity in the medical field. The fat that's not visible is called visceral fat. This one is located in the abdominal cavity. Is actually way more dangerous as it can cause extreme damage to the liver, kidney, and pancreas. 2. You can be skinny as well as muscular alongside being fat all at the same time. Skinny is just defined as being slim, and being slim doesn't mean you have no excess fat anywhere at all. While our muscles and fat tissues are completely different tissues, many bodybuilders and powerlifters are actually fat as well as extremely jacked because of that. Because they're not together. You can be fat and be muscular because they're literally not the same thing and aren't stored in the same parts of our bodies. That's not how it works. 3. Chubby and fat are not the same things. While they're very similar, they do have differences. Fat is strictly about how much fat we have in our bodies. Being fat is defined by having excessive amounts of fat within our bodies in any place. While chubby is about our weight being above average in general, as well as our appearance, etc., being plump or round. Basically, chubby just means having a little bit of overweight and stuff like that, while fat is usually more than just a little overweight. 4. You can be classified as overweight and even obese due to having heavy muscles, even if your body fat is normal. Muscle tissues are denser, so while they don't take as much space, they are heavier. And obesity, as well as being overweight, have never been strictly about fat only, but your weight in specific. I genuinely can't believe some of these people, all the arguments they make, when they make zero sense if you do any ounce of actual research into the terms you're using, what can cause this or that. People love using words they never truly fact check, then they usually get mad when someone disagrees with them. It's not even funny, it's frustrating for someone like me who loves being factual and accurate. Seeing people throw everything out the window because they can't handle being wrong or told something they believed in for years isn't actually true. I dealt with this all my life, and it's mentally draining to go through, especially when the arguments don't even really make sense. It's even funnier because most of this doesn't even take long to research. Most of the screenshots I got in like 10 minutes. People just don't check anything anymore. They just believe anything society tells them like sheep, unless it goes against what they believe in and hate being proven wrong. Don't be like these people and check the words you're using first instead of throwing a hissy fit because someone is trying to prove you wrong unless you're actually right, but that also has to be checked. You won't always be right, and that's okay. That's how we learn and grow. But if you're gonna be this immature strawman or do anything in your power to be right just because you can't be bothered to fact check yourself, then just keep it to yourself. And stop harassing the creator of a stupid short about preferences just because someone uses a word in a way you don't like. It's not that deep. Nobody's getting hurt or body dysphoria. I can't speak over this. Seriously, just go outside, dude. Anyway, this is the end of the video, and whoever watched it, whatever fully or not, thanks for it, and I hope you can like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, or all the ones I have. Because this one is kind of random, I'm not gonna lie. As I make many different ones based on what I want to do at the time. Anyway, thank you for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye.